Ted Roy podcast. We are so thankful for you tuning in today. We have a very special guest. We have Natalie with Charleston Mobile Massage, and we are going to talk a little bit about how lawyers, massage therapists work together to serve people that have been injured in car accidents and other type of injuries. So Natalie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, tell everybody a little bit about how you got involved with massage.
Yeah, I kind of changed careers from being a CPA. I got my yoga certification and then just kind of fell into massage and really love using my hands and helping people. At the end of the day, they're happy customers.
Okay, so you were a CPA before you were a massage therapist.
Yes.
Okay, so both very detail oriented, right? A lot of the same stuff, but less spreadsheets.
Oh, way less spreadsheets. Not on a computer, but I feel for people who sit down all day and all kinds of bodies end up in my office.
Yeah, they say, I saw the other day somewhere it said that sitting is the new smoking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you see a lot of that with people that are just in front of a computer all day and just super tense.
Yeah. A lot of low back, hip pain.
Yeah, so your company, Charleston Mobile Massage, explain what it is that you offer and what it is that you do.
So a couple years ago, I started Charleston Mobile Massage. We actually come to your house or a vacation rental hotel and set everything up so you don't have to drive anywhere.
That's cool.
You know, no one likes that feeling of sitting in traffic before and after a nice relaxing massage, so we really take that stress out of it. So you can just be in your robe and relax at home. It's great for all kinds of different prenatal, postpartum, going through something stressful, couples massages, yeah.
That's great. So you actually bring the entire experience to wherever people are, which I would imagine is really good for people that are injured and don't necessarily want to go out to an appointment. Do you have a lot of clients that are injury victims?
I have quite a few. Also some who have chronic illnesses that are in a wheelchair and are not able to leave their house. Quite a few of my therapists that work for me are medically trained and have worked in a hospital setting, so we're pretty well-rounded and well-versed with many different conditions.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, the interplay that goes on when someone is injured, right? Because someone basically goes from, normal life, not seeing a massage therapist or a chiropractor or PT or orthopedic or anyone, and then they're injured. They lose their car if it was a car wreck, right? Because the car is no longer drivable, so now we have no car, and we have all these additional types of appointments that that we have to go to. And so one of the things that people always ask us is, what providers can you recommend, because I'm out of work, I don't have a car, I have all of these problems and I really need treatment. I'm in pain. And so that's one of the really good things about your business is that it takes a few of those elements, off of the table. And I think that's why, lawyers and massage therapists, PT, we've always worked well together because we're serving, in a lot of cases, the same people. And I know you have some personal experience with having, gone through a car wreck yourself.
In 2012, I had a pretty bad car accident in DC. I got rear-ended, and I have a pretty significant neck scar here. And yeah, I very much was like, all right, you need to get back to work and trying to figure out logistics. And, they say if you don't have time to meditate, that's when you need to meditate. And it's probably the same thing with a massage, where you're so frazzled and there's just so much going on. So you really need that grounding experience. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and people... we've had good luck with setting, now that we have Uber, it's much easier, right? Before we had Uber and Lyft, trying to get people taxis and all of that was impossible. But now the traffic is so bad. And a lot of people, I don't know if you experience this, but when they're in a car wreck for some period of time after, sometimes forever, they have, what they refer to as PTSD, but it's basically, you get very tense when you're in a similar traffic situation.
Personally, I'm a sunflower seeder, which I've noticed I do in stressful car rides because, and I understand why people smoke. It's like, this is such a tense experience. So I think kind of like yoga and massage helps bring awareness to your body. And if you can just be conscious driving around and feeling that tension, like, oh wow, I'm holding the steering wheel really tight, dropping your shoulders, relaxing your belly, like, it is hard to be aware of that when you're in the middle. Like, we're not meant to drive around 100 miles an hour, like, as humans. So it's a very stressful experience that we do every day.
Yeah, and I know, people tell us, they're like, it's sometimes that can be one of the worst parts that comes out of a car wreck is it's, they feel constantly on edge. And obviously, massage helps with that. The other thing I saw, I'm just curious about on your website, because I was like, oh, let me just go and look, since I knew we were having this conversation today. Lymphatic discharge. Can you explain a little bit about what that is, why it's useful? I mean, I'm just curious about it. I read about it, on your site, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, lymphatic massage is a really popular term right now. It's kind of like a hot topic. It's actually really great for post-op too. So if you had a surgery, it can help quicken healing and drain and get rid of inflammation. So like any puffy areas after a surgery.
Yeah.
But our lymph system is all throughout our body, and we're just helping move things along. So say you had like an arm surgery, the lymph nodes on the outside of your body are going to get a little more congested and clogged up, and will help kind of move the lymph to different release points so that it can drain properly.
So how is that different from like a deep tissue massage? That's the only kind I know. It's like every spa in America, you can get a deep tissue massage. How is it different?
It's very different. And it's almost not a real massage, but it's very relaxing. It's very light touch because the lymph is really on the top surface of your skin.
Right.
So you're still getting that relaxing nervous system reset, but it's not that deep pressure. So someone who just had a car accident, you don't really want to elbow in your back. You want a nice relaxing treatment. I would also like to chat a little bit about some other modalities that are good for that. So one type is called craniosacral therapy.
Okay.
And I have quite a few therapists that offer that as well. It's very gentle on the skull bones, so it's great for whiplash or concussion clients who just need hold my head and just really balance everything out. It's very gentle.
Okay, and that was called?
Craniosacral.
Craniosacral. Okay. What other types of services do you offer and recommend for injury victims?
Yeah, another one is myofascial release.
Okay. Explain that. That's a big word.
I know. Myofascial, our fascia is all throughout our body, and it can be combined with a regular massage, but we're really just kind of gently moving the tissue in constricted areas. So say you had like a mangled limb or some sort of, break, this can really release the area so that all the tissue, like layers of tissue, are gliding better.
Right.
I do cupping. That's a really nice modality for releasing like a really, get banged up area.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when we speak to our clients, obviously a lot of our clients that are, catastrophically injured, they're going to orthopedic, they're going to, surgeons, they're seeing all of this very intense, medical treatment that's very invasive, it's very intense. And a lot of times, their report to us is the physical therapy, the massages, like those are some of the best treatments because from a mental standpoint, it really helps them get through, the more difficult and invasive medical pieces.
I think that's the number one thing that massage can offer is just safety, a secure environment, some oxytocin, nervous system reset, just a chance to tune into your body and really just be aware and kind of tune out for a minute. We don't get any time really to do that. So yeah, it's a beautiful, especially when you're with a practitioner that cares and you really receive that, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So when I have I don't really like people touching me, so I don't go for massages that often, just as an aside, but I have a couple of times.
I have a theory about that.
Mostly on vacation, mostly with my wife, let's go for a massage, whatever. But this mobile part. So when you go into you're at a vacation place, you go into the spa, they have like these big beds and all this stuff. Like, how does the mobile work? Are we like on the couch or the recliner doing this? Or like
a lot of people ask if I'm setting up in a van.
Right.
There's no van.
Right.
We take care of kind of clearing some furniture if that's necessary, but it's basically the size of a twin bed, so living room or maybe a master bedroom. We also like to set up, if it's not too hot, out on the porch. I love an outdoor, nature-y massage.
Not this week.
Yeah, not this week in Charleston, but we make it work, and it's pretty easy.
Okay, so y'all bring all of that, and you take. How long does the whole kind of process take if we're doing standard treatment?
Like an hour and a half, I would say, just between setup, an hour massage, takedown. Yeah. We're pretty quick.
Yeah, you're pretty efficient. So that's awesome. What is what's your in general treatment schedule? So if somebody, let's just say somebody was in a car wreck and they have these issues that we're talking about where they're seeing orthopedic and all this, and they want to kind of get on a regular rhythm just for their mental health, their muscle health, what is a general treatment schedule that you recommend for something like that?
Well, we always want to have doctor's clearance. Once we have the okay, then I would say at least once a month in the beginning, more often if they can make that happen. But with all the other appointments, that can be difficult. So, yeah, I would say every other week.
Okay, is what you try to do. Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's interesting because people are like, after I leave my massage, I feel so great. And then when I go back, I really know I need,
they always say that, and then we don't see them for months.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay, so you told me you have a theory about that. I don't like people touching me on the massage. So let's hear it. Let's hear the theory.
I believe that not everyone, but certain individuals may have some sort of past trauma involving touch, and it can feel invasive because we're not used to platonic touch all on our bodies like that. So if you weren't taught that at a young age or received physical affection from loved ones, do you need a hug?
No, this is good. This is good.
It's just a thought, and I don't pry unless someone wants to offer that information. And I'm always like, okay, but
How often do you encounter that? Like somebody that is just like, I don't really want to be touched.
Pretty often. I mean, a lot of couples, the wife wants to do a massage, but the guy's like, no.
Yeah.
I try to make it as comfortable and really express our concerns. Anything that is a bother, we will make sure that you feel comfortable. But if you're not comfortable in a session, you're not going to be able to relax.
Correct.
So
correct. And more male than female kind of have that?
I would say so.
We were not hugged as children. It's like we didn't get hugged. No, it's interesting, because you kind of know certain people. I have friends, I have clients, obviously, that are very regular with their with their massage therapy practice and that sort of thing. And like I said, my experience has been a couple times on vacation usually. But actually, what I will say is that in those cases when I have done it, other than the initial this is weird, I have a stranger touching me. Once you get past that, it is a very relaxing experice.
I would say in many other cultures, it's not a luxury. They are getting these regularly, and they look at it as maintenance, just like working out.
Right.
The fact that we treat it as a luxury is just, I wish it was more affordable. I wish we had more insurance coverage for massage. It's preventative medicine, but it's not viewed that way in the eyes of the public right now. And it'd be great if we could make it more of a routine for people.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You mentioned preventative medicine, and obviously we're in this industry where we're dealing with injured people all the time, so we know, kind of the less tense you are, the less likely you are to be injured. It's like you see these situations all the time where, there's a car accident and the person that was drunk walks away perfectly fine, and the person that was not has all these broken bones and everything. And there's a lot of theories, around that. But obviously one of the contributing pieces is that generally the person that's under influence is more relaxed and they're not as tense, And so talk about that. When you talk about, massage is also preventative medicine, how does that work, with the human body?
Yeah, I think one major benefit, and I kind of mentioned earlier, is awareness. So you might not know that you have a chronic issue going on because, you know, how often are you touching your foot or your leg? Like, I'll be working in an area and someone's like, oh, wow, that's a thing. Or you might be doing a regular thing at the gym that is kind of like out of alignment, and you come in for a massage and you're noticing it then. So I think we can catch things before it can worsen. I have a lot of clients that come to me like, trying to avoid a hip replacement, gonna see what I can do before that, doing PT and massage, and sometimes we can prolong the replacement, or then I'll see them after, and we're working on that as well. But yeah, there's quite a lot of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you obviously know a lot about this topic. You've been doing it 6 years. You were a CPA. Tell us a little bit about I'm curious, your journey into massage therapy, right? Yeah. Because I think most people would think, okay, we went from accounting to massage therapy. These are like very different things. So, you know, how did you get involved in it professionally?
Well, I had an Eat, Pray, Love moment where I went to India for my yoga training. Okay. And I took a class in Thai yoga massage. So it's like yoga mixed with massage, which is really great for people who don't stretch. Right. I'm not sure if that's you or not. So I just really loved using my hands, and I just wanted to do something creative for a while. And like massage is actually so relaxing for me also as the giver. I kind of can turn my brain off a little bit and just be in a meditative state, which is a really nice contrast to my like more calculated accounting brain. Right.
So okay, India yoga training. How long was this process?
I was there for 2 months, and I came back and started doing Thai yoga right away. Yeah. Kind of took me a little bit to get up and running. But I always was looking at it as I wanted to own my own business and make my own schedule. So massage is really perfect for that. Yeah.
You said that Thai yoga is yoga mixed with massage. So I've done yoga. Yeah. I'm picturing like I'm down here in like, you know, downward dog or whatever, and someone is coming trying to make me loose so I can do the next move. How does it actually work? Because I'm sure that's not it.
It's kind of like lazy yoga. So I have a mat, and I'm moving you around on the mat, stretching you, compressions. So it's not like, it might be a good option for someone who is scared of a regular massage. Like, we're not undressed, you're wearing clothes, there's no oil. We're just kind of like moving the body around.
Okay, so it's like manipulation, sort of. I mean, you know, I've obviously been to a chiropractor, you know, and have been through that process, so that makes sense.
I think something about like the elements of having the spa music and dimmer lights.
Oh,
like
100%.
You go to a chiropractor and it's just like, oh my gosh, like you're already tense because it's freezing and it's bright.
It's very clinical. Yeah. You know, most chiropractors' offices, and the best part of yoga is the lavender washcloth at the end. There's no doubt about that. So at least from my perspective. So, you know, when you came back, you came back from India, you kind of start this business. We talk a lot on this podcast just about, you know, business growth and expansion and kind of get it off the ground. Like, once you decided, okay, I'm going to make this a business, what was that process like? Like, how did you get started? What was the hardest part? You know,
well, I'll say I moved to Charleston 4 years ago and worked for quite a few chiropractor offices, acupuncture spas, and just was finding that it wasn't like a great environment. The pay wasn't that great. Yeah. And I had this idea to do mobile sessions and just be like outside at these beautiful beach homes, and really was wanting to have actual people work for me as well and kind of grow the business to a point where I was supporting other therapists, and have been pretty successful. I pay really well, and you know, my team is amazing, and I'm doing my best to just keep everybody busy, and it's very supportive in Charleston for small business.
How do most people find you?
I think mostly online, Google. Yeah. Like, you know, I kind of called my business Charleston Mobile Massage because that's what you Google for SEO.
That's right. It's a great name.
And we do a lot of like bachelorette parties, so I can have partnerships with different companies for that too.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. You know, I think a lot of people, they just assume like, oh yeah, you just put up a website and like people come, but that's not really how it works. You know, you have to market, you have to be intentional about, you know, what you call it. Right, that you're reaching out for the largest possible search result, you know, for what you're delivering, and it's you know, it's interesting. When did you kind of take the leap and decide that, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing, you know, I'm not going back to accounting, I'm not going back to any of this other stuff. I'm going to do this and I'm going to commit. Was there like a moment for you?
It took a little bit. I mean, I was doing taxes on the side, just kind of like, oh, I don't know. And then I realized, you know, I am making more money doing massage than I was doing taxes with my CPA degree. So I'm like, which one would, and I just enjoy it so much better. So it was maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And you kind of just made a calculated decision. You looked at the dollars and cents. I like that. So using that, you know, it wasn't like like an emotional thing.
Yes.
No, that's awesome. And, you know, so when you talk about, obviously, you know, mobile massage, and I know you mentioned bachelorette parties, like how big of a group can you service, like, or do you typically service?
I mean, we do 12, 15 people. We also do chair massage events where it's, you know, 100 people or something. So it really depends. We can customize it.
Yeah. And you have how many therapists?
12.
12. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So in 4 years, you have really grown.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a demand here for it. I mean, Charleston's like bachelorette capital.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned it is kind of a luxury thing. We have a lot of luxury vacationers that I'm sure that it, you know, appeals to. And then kind of our standard tense people.
Yes.
You know, that are.
I think we have, you know, we do the vacationers, but then, you know, we're here all year round. And a lot of my therapists have their own kind of side projects and practices as well. So we have a lot of locals that we work on, like we were talking about, who might have some sort of chronic disease or, you know, after an accident. So I'm definitely looking to expand locally and have kind of more of a regular weekly clientele.
Are there anything else kind of about your journey that stands out? Because I think it's fascinating. So you come from a very like detail-oriented mathematical background, have your CPA degree, you're doing that. You have this eat, love, pray, like moment, which is, you know, kind of is what it is. And you're off to India, you're doing your yoga training, and then you come back and you're doing both, which I think a lot of people do. And, you know, we're starting a business, you have to like obviously pay bills. So like, I know this makes money, so I'm going to keep doing that. But then you look at it and you just make a determination like, okay, I want to go, you know, this direction. Is there anything else kind of in that journey that stands out, you know, for other people that are going through a similar process, you know, because I feel like oftentimes we get pigeonholed into whatever our college or our parents or our social group, you know, is like, oh, you should be this. And it's like, okay, well, I'll be that, you know, and a lot of people spend a lifetime trying to do what they love and they never figure it out, and you have.
Yeah, and I think it's always a revolving thing where it might not be my thing forever. You know, everyone thinks so long term, and I think this will kind of morph and I might start some other business. So just being open to expansion and to how your heart feels in the moment, because it could change. No,
I think it's very it's kind of like spiritual in a way, you know, that you've come to this point. So how do people find you? Obviously they can Google Charleston Mobile Massage.
Absolutely. Yes. We're on Instagram also. And that's pretty much it, I think.
Okay, Instagram and Google, that's how we get there. So Natalie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It was great to have you come in and sit down and take a few minutes just to explain to folks, you know, all the great things that you're doing, and I really appreciate you coming and sharing with us.
Thank you. Maybe we'll get you to do a Thai yoga session.
Maybe.